topic number 5. Can I read it? Share information and models about urban agriculture.
We actually created like 7 pages of notes, so I think going over them we'd be here way too long. Basically, what we discussed was about the need to share information and models about urban agriculture, and there's a large need for this to at least 3 different audiences. There is a need for counties, municipalities, and for the individual agricultural producer themselves to know about these models, and information about them. So those are the 3 audiences that need to be getting this information. We talked about how CMAP is already currently trying to distribute this sort of information to the municipalities and the counties. But there's currently a need for the individuals. There's not really anyone who's really doing that we could identify. And I'm not sure, Jason, but I don't really know exactly where CMAP is on distributing that sort of information right this moment. Lori? So we should be expecting that fairly soon. Okay. Okay, so make sure to don't call Lori until Monday if you don't get that. So there's a variety of different ways, a variety of different areas in which they need information and models. We talked about how they needed practical models, how to do a proper business model, how to actually raise the land itself. The Extension Office covers some of this already, although with the decreased funds of the Extension Office, we talked about how that is kind of going by the wayside. Although they do have Extension Offices directly aimed, or at least before the cutbacks, at local food. Whether or not those actually are still accessible, we were kind of debating. Then we also talked a lot about the environmental regulations that a lot of people aren't aware of. Like, for example, in some areas you cannot take compost to your neighbor's yard because that's breaking the law, and you can do it if you pay $5,000 to get a permit to share your compost with your neighbor. So that's one type of example of environmental regulations that people don't know about, and partly, and as a result, because they don't know about them, including the people, they don't get changed or modified, including by the city planners. Yeah, and the other thing is we were talking about regulation models, the zoning, the health models that need to be distributed. And this goes to both the individual agricultural producer as well as the county municipalities. So there's a variety of different distribution, there's a variety of different types of information that need to be distributed out there, and which everyone can agree that they don't have adequate access to them yet. And the fact that we had a whole bunch of people who were experts in the field sitting down and we were constantly learning new information, I thought was kind of astounding. So just to kind of highlight the need.
Group number 6, incorporating urban agriculture into comprehensive plans. And then we'll do group number 1.
Well, we only did the first part of the breakout session. The second one was just kind of a Q&A with CNAP, but we did put together some ideas about comprehensive planning, and the first thought was that it should be viewed as more of a long-term goal instead of a temporary fix that a lot of maybe plans have previously used it as. Also, our group highlighted farmland preservation as an important component into comprehensive planning. And then there was the question of how involved counties should be, if they should take the lead or if they should be delegating a lot of the planning to other smaller municipalities. And also establishing local food policy councils and partnering with other municipalities in order to get that council together. Yeah, and then there's just a small part. And then what is the next step? A lot of areas already have the farmers markets, but I guess what can we put in the comprehensive plans to kind of take it to a further step? What other new techniques, what other data and research need to be collected? If there needs to be an ID of vacant land, should that be included in the comprehensive planning? And then the last idea that was brought up was that a lot of commissions are maybe made up of elected officials that are maybe not experts in local food policies. So I guess getting more of those experts on board with the planning.
Sam?
So I'd like to add one thing from our group. We had talked about putting urban agriculture in comprehensive plans. It wasn't necessarily like getting the urban ag included in the comprehensive plans was so much the issue. It's the next step of actually addressing the ordinances and the policies at the local level that would really come with those kind of, I guess, barriers or next steps that you would need to work with your local government to actually get through. Getting in a comprehensive plan was, a lot of people at the table thought was, something that was very doable. It was just actually making that comprehensive plan come to life, come to action. And that's where the other side of the planning comes in, like the ordinances, local policies, making those in line with what we put in the comprehensive plan. Just wanted to add that in. Thank you.
And group number one, Sandra Street, and our topic was identifying new sources of funding.
Well, as almost with any enterprise, funding is always an issue, and these times a particular issue. One of the things that we touched on was the fact that obviously right now, any sort of governmental funding is really pretty a long shot. USDA does have some programs, but with the budget situation as it is and the time that it would take to apply for them, it's worth looking into, but these aren't things that we decided were really going to be viable opportunities. One of the most important suggestions I think that came out of this was from a number of the planners looking at the local tools that they're already using, maybe for different uses that could be applied to urban agriculture. And so one was impact bonds, impact fees that might be able to be applied to supporting urban agriculture. Looking at community development, CBDG grants, and loans was a possibility. The CDFI money from, or commitments from some of the banks is a possibility. It was just kind of a struggle to figure out how we can help support the beginning community gardens. If there's some that have been supported, funded, the employment's been funded by workforce development funds that can get the garden started. Greenworks, I believe, can help provide some of the materials initially for a garden. And I think one of the best suggestions came out in some of the presentations earlier, and again with this, have large targets, but move up incrementally. One of the most common suggestions and one of the best ones was to look at this as an entrepreneurial effort. Start off as maybe a garden just feeding the community, get the community involved. Then maybe the next year, the next season, add a crop that you could sell and maybe sell the excess from the garden, using this as possibly an incubator for entrepreneurs. One example was cited that putting the resources together. One person has a sangria recipe. They had a recipe that they could buy the product, they found the bottler, they've done their market research and their efforts to find a product that they could create and then sell and distribute, so the market research was a very important part of it. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get things funded. I think one of the most important things about with the urban agriculture and local foods groups, the way that the movement is growing is a lot of communities and organizations have undertaken their own gardens to start with, or their own endeavors. They're starting it on their own, putting in maybe using some possibly city or community resources to help buy tools, but a lot of them are doing it on their own effort, maybe getting small grants. But one of the reasons I think that it's going to continue to grow is people see the value of this. They see the value of growing their own food. They are realizing more and more about the health benefits. And I think as it moves forward, with some guidance possibly from not-for-profit institutions and maybe hopefully some funding from not-for-profit institutions, there could be technical expertise and business consulting available around helping some of these organizations take it to the next level, step by step into the entrepreneurial format. Fresh Taste has done some funding for feasibility studies and some small market garden funding. They also are looking at trying to develop a financing pool for financing a sustainable local food system, raising funds for this. There is a small group that came out of their finance subcommittee called Slow Big that is looking at financing mostly entrepreneurial businesses that are related to a local sustainable food system. The slow money from Woody Tash, that concept, I don't think there's a slow money group in this area, but the social investing is a possibility, and I know that there's some interest in kind of growing maybe the slow pig into more of a slow, it is a slow investing organization, and they're looking to grow that. Additionally, I know that some of the CDFI institutions are looking at moving into the sustainable local food or local food entrepreneurial market area, and there's been discussions around that in conjunction with at some of the USDA Good Greens meeting. So whatever results we can continue to pull together, and if anybody has any suggestions, any more suggestions of what you're doing in your communities, or how you can tweak programs, obviously we're all interested in moving it forward.
Which is a great segue into the closing, because we want to talk about follow-up and how we can work with each other and help each other. CEED at Chicago will be following up, especially with the planners here, to see if our workshop has been of assistance to you in identifying policies that you can focus on in your community in order to make an impact on the equitable distribution of food, producing more local food locally. And we will be following up with everyone with the information we've collected today. So we will be probably sending you an email, I would say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, with the notes that we've collected this afternoon. And there's another opportunity that I want to ask Joanna Trotter to talk about in terms of follow-up for the participants at today's workshop. Then I want to take just 1 minute after Joanne talks to get just a couple, if somebody would like to just tell us how they thought today went for them. We'd love to hear some of their feedback. And then, of course, please fill out those evaluation forms.